just speaking about some of the schools, the schools, Franklin Junior High, Indianola. Let me go up to Massachusetts again. When we were in Massachusetts growing up, we lived in New Bedford, Massachusetts. We also went to a school on the Air Force Base. And the name of that Air Force Base was Hanscom Field. So we went to school on Hanscom Field Air Force Base. And good school. But I'm inclined to speak about one of the friends that I met while I was there. God, I hope I get his name right. But I know his last name is Yanulovich. I had a little friend, Mike Yanulovich, and he was from that area, which is the Boston area, and a little different than I was in my background. He had grown up in Boston, and one of the primary sports up there is hockey. He absolutely loved hockey. I was new to the environment, and in hockey, it's fighting is natural. So he had a toughness about him, and I specifically want to talk about his toughness because whenever I think of him, I'm like, God, I learned, I developed a sense of toughness from him in that we used to play hockey. We didn't play on the ice. Well, we could have, we had a frozen pond up there. But for the most part, it was warm year round, and, we played outside like street hockey, where you just played on the asphalt. But Mike Yanulovich was a good friend. And I remember one day, in just thinking about him, I'm led to this story. One day we went to the swimming pool. It was my whole family, his whole family. And we were laying there at the poolside, just talking and stuff, You know how little boys are, laying on our stomachs, they're talking. I'm looking at my sister, Yolanda. She's out there swimming. And I've got a story about her, too, about learning how to swim before me. And I was older, but she had actually, I'll get back to that. Let me finish the Mike Yanulovich story before I get to Yolanda. Well, we're laying down talking one day, and this is my first summer in Massachusetts, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And there were flies in the summertime, and I mean big flies, like big horse flies, But I wasn't used to this particular type fly because these flies bit, or they will land on you and bite you. So we're just laying there talking, and all of a sudden he hops up and he dives in the pool. And I didn't think anything of it, but it wasn't maybe, I'd say 5 minutes later after he had come back, and we were back on the a bank again, or the pool side. I got bit by one of those flies, and I mean, it's almost as if the fly had teeth. And that's one of my fun stories of that area, in that, it almost sounds like I'm speaking negatively because of, I'm saying flies, big flies, but it wasn't like that. It's, you have big horse flies and big flies everywhere. And, but this particular fly, I don't know what type it was, but it bit. And it had, once again, seemed like teeth. And I never will forget that bite and me running and jumping in the pool that summer too. And I am going to lead that into Yolanda. I just spoke of Yolanda. My baby sister Yolanda, it was three of us. My oldest brother Keith, a year older than me, and my baby sister, Yolanda, is 3 years younger than me. Well, that summer, she learned, I'm on the banks of the swimming pool, and all of a sudden, I see my little sister in the deep water. And I'm like, now I can't swim, and I know she can't swim. So I'm sort of in a half panic state. And she's just floating, she's laying on her back floating and just casually just wading through the water, just enjoying the sun, and drifted over into I think it was the 6 feet at the time, and it was over our heads. But I was like, standing at the bank, I said, hey, come back over here to the bank, because I'm nervous now because I can't save her, because I can't swim at the time. I did learn how to swim and have no trouble swimming in deep water. As a matter of fact, that was one of our requirements when I was in the Army. And I got to get to this story too, about how we used to, one part of our training was to make like this little air float with our pants. But anyway, back to Yolanda. I'm scared. She's drifting back over, and she comes back over to the bank, and I asked her, weren't you scared? And she didn't think anything of it, And then I asked her, how did you float? I actually learned how to swim from someone who was 3 years younger than me. My sister was 3 years younger. And I was asking her, how did you learn how to float? And then she mentioned that she had talked to a friend, and they were telling her about how to arch the back and hold your head back. And believe it or not, I learned how to swim from my baby sister, 3 years younger than me. And I began to practice that over into 3 feet until I got it, and where I was real comfortable that I could float. And my introduction to swimming was floating. Learn how to float before I learned how to swim forward first. So I got my floating down. And now I'm a full-fledged swimmer. Not anything on any kind of a competitive level, but do enough to keep from drowning. And, I can handle rough waters if necessary, but, don't want to put myself in that position. And that's because I want to keep everything practical, take no risk. A lot of people talk about risk and taking risk in life, but there is some risk that you can take that'll help advance who you are as a person, but then there are unnecessary risk that you can jeopardize your life, and I never want to put myself in that position at all. So I keep it practical, for the most part, and that I try to keep a level head about things. But my exposure to the water that summer was one of the greatest things, because I ended up building the confidence when I learned how to swim. Don't ask me why, but learning how to swim takes you to another level. It exudes a confidence, It's almost as if you can do something that others may not be able to. And it gave me a confidence too. And at that point, I never worried about drowning again after that summer. But the school on Hanscom Field's Air Force Base, when we lived in New Bedford, was a good school. Trained us really well. Because when I went back to Tennessee, I guess the educational system in Tennessee had an excellent educational system, because I think some of the standardized testing was actually mapped and approved nationally through one of the Tennessee associations. But the education system at the time was just a little bit more advanced than the junior high school that I transferred to when I made it back to Memphis, because I always tell this story. And everybody can always attest to me telling this story. I was in the 9th grade, and the teachers put me in special education. They thought I had a mental challenge. So I got put into, our class was in this trailer, and I went to it for like 3 days before I actually realized what was actually happening. Because when I got transferred out of my class to that form of training, I realized that I was being taken back. But here's my story about when I got put into special education, because it appeared that I needed remediation or remedial training. I used to sit in class. When I came back from Massachusetts, in my class, I was a little bit advanced. And I used to sit in class and not do much. And the teacher thought that I had a lack of focus. That's my assumption at this point. So I got put into the special education class. Now watch this. I went home and I told Mom, I said, Mom, they put me in special ed. And I don't think I'm supposed to be there because these kids, I think they're like, I didn't use the word developmental or developmentally challenged, anything like that, but I said it in the jargon of children, and how like a little 9th grader would speak. But I told Mom that I was put in that class, and Mom went up to the school dragging me, and I was kind of walking behind her. When we went into the principal's office, we had scheduled a meeting with my homeroom teacher, and she stood up for me. Let me just say that. She was like, you need to test him because he is not, challenged. And they did test me. And they wanted to put me up into the 10th grade. But I didn't want to go to the 10th grade. I was already 9th grade, I'm just going to say 4'11", real short. I was real short and couldn't have weighed more than, and real small too, couldn't have weighed more than, I'm going to say 80 pounds. I mean, real small for my size. And also I had started school early, as a 5-year-old versus a 6-year-old. So I'm already at the bottom end of the kids in my age bracket. Well, I didn't want to get promoted to the 10th grade. So the compromise was, they just put me back in class. And at that point, everything went well. But that's my story about being put in special ed because they thought I was challenged. But I tell that story all the time because it's just one that's never been forgotten. It's talked about, through my family at times. And, it's kind of a joyous conversation. I guess one of the teachable moments would be that I would say that the quirkiness of the story would literally kind of, as a person who's listening to it, it would kind of put them in the mind of, well, just make sure that you pay attention in school, just stay focused, do the right things, But when we left Massachusetts and we came back, and I've gone through the 9th grade, was on the tennis team, did some other things. I went over to Booker T. Washington High School. But you know what? I think before I go over to Booker T. Washington High School, I want to talk about something that happened when I was in the 9th grade also. The summer before the 10th grade year. Now, I mentioned to you that I used to go to the boys club, and I enjoyed the boys club, right? Watch this. One of the activities was the chef's club. I guess they were trying to develop our culinary skills. But I was in the chef's club at the boys' club, right? And, they showed us how to cook all of these little dishes, we were young kids, but they were teaching us, skills that you need in life. And one of those was cooking. So I was in the chef's club, and one of the things we learned how to make was a tuna casserole. So I'm in there and studied everything, listened to our instructor, at the time, Tim was conducting that class. And I went home and I told the family, I'm cooking dinner for everybody Saturday. And I was gonna fix a tuna casserole for everybody. One of the proudest moments of my life. Now watch this again. I made this dish, and I went all the way through putting breadcrumbs on top of it, because they taught us how to do it, by the book. And my family were not only shocked and surprised, they were almost amazed at how well it had turned out when I did it by myself. But Mom gave me the green light to do it, and I'm kind of glad, a lot of parents, they might take the position of, don't mess up anything in there and don't waste any food. But Mom was one of the kind of people that she was not as strict with us, She gave us leeway, and she allowed us to do some things that a lot of parents wouldn't allow. And when I say that, I mean freedom, not just in cooking, because that's something that almost every parent would do, but I think about some of the leeway that we were offered or given. But after I made this tuna casserole, my family, it's almost as if they didn't even look at me the same. They were like, that was impressive. That was great. That was a great meal. And then I went through, during this class, we went through some steps on how to present it, actually just etiquette type things, like presenting the spoons, forks, or the utensils, and giving instruction, and then, serving it to them, making them feel proud when you serve it to them. That's part of the presentation that they were teaching us. But I never will forget, my family talked about that for a while. They thought that was a nice moment in our life. I can appreciate those moments now as I reflect. But that was that summer. Now, let me take you to Booker T. Washington High School, the first high school that I went to. I ended up going to Manassas, graduating from Manassas High School, but I began in 10th grade at Booker T. Washington High School. And a good high school. I learned the song. All 10th graders are required to learn the school song. And I'm going to toggle over here a little bit now. Let me go over to Manassas. I feel kind of ashamed in a sense. Let me tell you what happened. I ended up graduating from Manassas, and here's where my shame sets in. We had a class reunion, and I didn't know the school song. And man, that hurt my spirit because I heard everybody singing it. We had been out of school for a while, and this was our first anniversary, like 10-year anniversary. And the, 20-year anniversary. No, I'm sorry, 10-year anniversary. Everybody was singing the song. We had to sing the song, and I didn't know the words. And then I started reflecting on it. Did I forget the words because I had, moved on, gone overseas and, had been away from the family and friends and that environment for a while. And then I asked myself, did I forget it because I've been away? And something hit me that it almost made me feel ashamed, and I've used the word ashamed again, and it almost made me feel ashamed because that is part of tradition and history, and it should be maintained. But what I realized was that's embedded in you when you first get to high school, because I could sing the Booker T. Washington school song, but I couldn't sing the Manassas school song. And I'm like, maybe it was taught to everybody when you get into the 10th grade, and that's where it's maybe hammered into you when you first get into high school. And they take it at that point that you know it going forward, and at assembly you would sing it. But I don't remember when I either forgot Manassas high school's song or if I ever knew it. But I feel ashamed that I didn't know it when we went through that, when we were at that reunion, because that was now my new home. You know, that was a graduating school. Even though Booker T. Washington, all the kids that I grew up with were there. Now, let me toggle back over to Booker T. Washington. And I'm not going to be bashful about this. I mean, a lot of people would be reserved in even speaking of this. However, I once heard a writer say that if you truly want to produce good work, it's almost as if you have to walk down the street naked, because you have to let people see what's inside of you in order to really convey a message. So I am actually going to go out on that limb right now in telling this story. But I'm at high school, and you know, there's always going to be, you know, for the most part, my school was a great school, but I had one encounter where a guy picked on me, and you know, I wasn't the fighting type, never have been, never will be. And I had a friend that stood up for me, and he probably don't even remember this moment, but because it's been years now. But I had a friend named James LaSure. James LaSure was a great friend, humble guy. I mean, when we were younger, he used to carry a Bible, literally carried a Bible. He was a religious guy, and he had a lot of sisters. I think it was James LaSure and his 3 sisters, and maybe a little tiny brother, like a baby or something, but James was the only boy. And you would think a guy that was humbled like that, and soft-spoken, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet walking this earth. And I literally mean one of the nicest people that ever walked this earth. And this guy was picking on me, and he was like, hey man, just leave us alone. You know, we just want to just go on and mind our own business, you know, because it was a guy from another neighborhood. We'd never met we knew of him because we were all in the same high school together now. But he stood up for me that day, and I've never really thanked him for that. One day, I'm going to say, hey, James LaSure, you probably don't remember this, but you stood up for me one day, and that's truly a friend. It was a guy, we called him Dirty Ricky. But on that, don't ask me how he got the name, but that's what his nickname was. But I guess we had somewhat of a camaraderie because we were all from the same neighborhood. And I guess the moral to this story is I didn't know how feisty he was and how skilled he was. Until that moment. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to put any kind of a spin on this tone that I'm trying to use, or the flavor of this messaging. But one of the things that happened also when I was in high school, outside of my James LeSure story, was I fell in love with a girl who didn't know that I loved her. Believe it or not, I was in the 10th grade. Never to this day ever mentioned to her. Only knew her for 1 year. I was only at Booker T. Washington for my 10th grade year. But I remember the name and the face. It was a girl named Teresa Cox, believe it or not. And I don't know why, when I first saw her, I had this puppy love, back then. And, oh, you know what? I think I need to kind of let me kind of back off on relationship type things, because I want this to be conducive with all audiences, or anyone who should view this. But I ended up having a puppy love for a girl named Teresa Cox. And who knows where life has taken all of us.